So guys, in my last video I shared with us how I drafted my princess dart Bustier pattern for the making of our beautiful brown gown outfit. Okay, so I actually cut out the main fabric, the lining piece, and I also went ahead to cut out my wadding, and I had gone ahead to iron out my wadding on my actual fabric. Okay, and so this is what it is looking like, and the fabric I used for the making of this outfit was very small. I had to manage it. So first I'm going to be joining them together on the sides using my pins. So while joining them, ensure they are equally aligned. It is not like the one fabric is aligning longer than the other one. So while joining the curve together, ensure that it is properly placed together and equally. Okay, so there's no extra fabric left on either one of the two fabric you are joining together, so that your curve for your dart will come out properly. So after holding it together using my pins, I would go ahead to the sewing machine to stitch it together. And after I was done, this is what it looked like I said, while cutting my fabric using my pattern paper, I was supposed to add extra 1 inch seam allowance on the side. So the fabric wasn't enough for me to do that, and that is why you can see me attach extra fabric on the side. So whenever you want to cut your pattern paper on your fabric, ensure you add an additional 1 inch on the side. So after I was done stitching my lining piece on my actual fabric, this is what the back looked like. And then I'd also gone ahead to join that of the front together around the dart area. So I'll simply be stitching it on the actual fabric. So I'll stitch around the neck, the shoulders, and then on the armhole area, as well as on the side. So I'll be leaving the bottom portion of it. And after I was done, I'm simply flipping it to the right side. So I will also be repeating this for the front fabric as well. To avoid puffiness on the neck area and on the armhole area, I also did a top stitch around them. As you can see, this is what it looked like after I was done. So I'll be placing the back fabric on the front now, and I will go ahead to stitch around the shoulders first and then also on the two sides. So now we're done working on the top portion. So we'll be setting this aside to work on the skirt, which is the flare portion. So guys, I actually had a gown before which is old, and I wanted to recycle it, convert it into something else. So that is why I'm having this crepe fabric which I had used before. I just loosened it from that design because it was looking out of fashion, and this I'll be using to make the skirt portion of our gown. So it's actually a 360 degrees flare, and it's a full length getting to my ankle area. So what I'll be doing is to first of all cut the flare from the radius to about 22 inches. Okay, so this will be the first cutting of our flare. So this measurement of 22 inches now is the first length. So I'll be taking this measurement all around to the other end, and then I would use my chalk to connect all the points together, and then I will be cutting it out. Next to this, I'll be taking another flare of 31 inches. Okay, so before cutting it out, I took another flare measurement, which is from the radius to the full length is 31 inches. So these points would use to also draft our curve around our folded fabric. Okay, so I'll be connecting all the points together now as you see me do. So next to the initial measurement of flare pattern I took, I'm also taking another one using my free hand. So I simply am taking the measurement of about 1.5 inch, okay, while cutting. The reason is so that the shorter portion of the flare is longer in length compared to the bigger portion of flare, okay? So what I'm simply trying to say is that the flare that has the 22 inches of length is shorter in length compared to the flare that has the 31 inches in length before cutting. Okay, so you can see me indicate with my finger there, showing that this shorter flare is now longer in length. The reason is because I intend making pleats with this shorter flare after attaching my bias. This I'm going to be stitching on the two edges. Okay, you can see how I've placed it now. I'm going to be stitching this bias fabric all through to the end of this material. So I would go over to the sewing machine now to stitch this, and this is how I'll be placing it. So please take note that you don't open it up to stitch. You can see I left out a little piece of fabric before beginning to stitch my bias on my actual fabric, so that I would be trimming out when I'm done. So I will stitch on one side first, and I'll also go ahead to stitch on the other side as well, so the bias will be properly placed. Okay, now I'm simply repeating my stitches on the other side. Okay, and this now is holding the bias properly in place. Like I said, I'll trim out the excesses, and this I'm going to be placing on the bigger flare fabric or the skirt. You can see I'm making simple pleat patterns. It's just to make this flare unique a bit, to have like a darker shade of brown on the flare. So after I was done, this is what it now looked like. Okay, looking simple but very elegant. So this now I'll be joining on the top of my fabric. So around the waist area of my flare, it is actually very long, longer than my actual waist measurement. So my waist measurement is 32 inches. And what I'll be doing now is to run a loose stitch around this radius and make simple gathers. So I've done that now. I'm simply going to be pulling on the strings carefully. So ensure while pulling on your strings it doesn't cut. So I'll be making little gathers. It is not going to be very full, because if I gather it very well, the fabric will not be enough for my waist measurement and my zipper allowance. So I'll do this nicely and ensure that the length is equal with the length of the top which we had sewn. So while making your gathers, ensure you are taking the measurements as well. So after I was done, I'm going to be placing the top, the right sides facing each other on this flare fabric, and then I'll be running stitches around the waist as I'm indicating with my finger. So after I was done, this is what it now looks like, neatly done. Okay, so I'll be closing the back of this dress, leaving out the zipper area. So first, I'm simply taking a measurement of 5 inches. So from that point to the hem is where I'm going to be running my stitch. So for our zipper area, which is the last step on the making of this our outfit, I'm simply flipping my gown to the wrong side, and you can see the way I'd positioned my fabric around the zipper area. So I'll be holding my zip using my pins. Okay, this zip fixing is the one that does not show stitching on the right sides of the fabric. You can see me holding my zip along with my fabric, lifting up that allowance area there. Okay, so ensure you don't pin it together with the back portion of this gown. So I will do this now and also do it on the other side as well, and then I'll go over to the sewing machine to stitch it together. So guys, that's basically it for the making of our beautiful outfit. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'll be seeing us on the next one.